Hello, I'm Ollie from Eurogamer, and welcome to the very first developer session of Rezzed 2019. Coming up later today, we've got sessions on Void Bastards, Dying Light 2, Universal Space Station, Anno 1800, and at 5 o'clock, I'm going to be presenting a panel on the best games of the last 20 years in honor of Eurogamer's 20th birthday this year. But to kick us off, please welcome Michael, Live, and James from Creative Assembly and Total War: Three Kingdoms.
Hello, how's everyone doing? Do we have any Total War fans in the audience, just to start off? Yeah, I thought we might. So there's a couple of new faces, so just to kick things off, we should probably explain what Total War is, James. Total War, of course, being a complete merge of grand 4X strategy on a turn-based campaign map with real-time huge battles, thousands and thousands of soldiers on each side. This particular flavor of Total War is Total War: Three Kingdoms, set in 190 CE, after the fall of the Han Empire. As it's crumbling, the Child Emperor has become nothing more than a puppet of the tyrant Dong Zhuo and all of the would-be warlords who seek to make their name in this tumultuous time are starting to raise their armies in their support. And James, you've been playing for how many turns now? We're in year 201 now in the autumn season.
Yeah, I'm taking a guess. I'm going to say I'm about 50 turns. As you can see, we'll get to what's happening over here a bit later.
That's the important bit, but let's have a look at the story so far. So we're playing as Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao is a very a bit hubristic. He's a warlord who started the coalition against Dong Zhuo that would inevitably fall apart. As you can see, he's a very happy guy, enjoying his time right now. He's reached the rank of Marquis, and he's trying to make a name for himself. Your current goal, though, is to completely shatter everyone else's campaigns by taking the Child Emperor. But before we got to that point, we're here north of the Yellow River. You started off with your attacks against Gongsun Zan, which went pretty well for you. You've sort of merged into his territory, into yours.
Yeah, so your initial kind of start here, you're one of the first warlords that's able to put together coalitions, and with that gives you kind of the initial kind of strength in a campaign, because you can kind of work out which factions you want to work with and kind of like force them down a certain path. So I can bring them against wars against Gongsun Zhao and other people and kind of bend them to my will at the early game. But with that, you start to get very powerful, and because of that, everyone kind of starts disliking you. So it's very quickly, though I'm very good at this game, so I was able to hold that all together. But I was able to put an alliance together with Liu Bei over on the northeast, and Cao Cao as well, who is usually your main rival as Yuan Shao. He's someone you always kind of butt heads with eventually because you're the two main powers in the area. But we formed a coalition. That was my aim early on, bring us all together and kind of lead them down the garden path that I want them to go to. So that's all been good.
We need to be careful, though,
except
because
from this, obviously, but that happened. But,
because we do have a few issues at home. A yellow turban rebellion has popped up. Bit dissatisfied with your rule, James.
Yeah.
But we'll deal with that at a later date. You know, that's not something that we need to worry about right now. One of the more pressing issues is the fact that this coalition that we've put together is a bit of a fragile allegiance. One of the main issues, I think, is the fact that you've got Cao Cao in your coalition. He's a bit of a crafty guy, Cao Cao, and he's definitely going to use at least some of his craftiness to get behind you and maybe try and pull some of the strings of what's going on in this coalition.
Yes, so Cao Cao as a character, as a faction, kind of works around the idea of manipulating other people against each other, which is very painful to be on the other side because you can start proxy wars, so you can be forced into wars against factions you don't want to be fighting against. So it's very useful for him. If someone declares war and he's fighting on multiple fronts, you can get Yuan Shao and Liu Bei to fight against each other, to buy you time while you do your own thing. So we're in a coalition here. You can see the faction group list over on the bottom right there. So we're the Coalition of Autumn.
Aptly named.
Yeah, well, it's a coalition of its bucketing down outside. So you can see we've also got two vassals as well, which we've been able to bring under our wing. So they assign to us. But they can also once you vassalize other factions, you've got a few options. You can completely take them over at some point, though that will give you a massive hit diplomacy. or they can drag you into wars. They will be, because they're a small faction, they will have a larger faction trying to absorb them. They will have been declared war on, and you'll be asked to defend your client kingdom, basically. And by doing that, you end up in a wider war, which is what's happened right now.
The diplomatic game of Three Kingdoms is a delicate balance between wanting to expand your own territory to move into new realms, but also trying to keep everyone on your side as well, because this is one of the richest diplomatic systems that we've put together in a Total War game today. So many more options. In fact, if we open up Telltale's panel there, we can have a look at some of the options that we have, getting into talks with these people, and you can see all of the coalitions that formed across the map as well. So all of these huge amounts of options that we have with us. So, for example, your war and peace are your more standard ones, but you can go into trade and marriage where you're swapping, for example, maybe you're giving them some kind of food supply in exchange for military aid, or maybe you're going in for accepting a vassalship underneath you in exchange for declaring them independent forever. So you'll never abdicate them and bring them back into your power. So there's a lot of different tools at your disposal when you've got that diplomatic ire as well, and especially with Yuan Shao, because he focuses on that alliance play style. He's really going to use that to his advantage. But you're going to throw all that out the window, aren't you, Dogbert?
Well, that's my plan. But to give a quick overview before we get to that, you can see we have a coalition of Ordom. There's also the coalition to restore harmony, coalition of the Great Plains, and then you see the characters out of coalitions as well. So this is, you can try and work out how you're going to build your power blocks. So you usually end up with maybe 3 or 4 really powerful coalitions that form in the kind of early mid-game, and then they change into military alliances depending on how close a relationship you are. So yeah, at the moment, our main focus and what we've been looking at doing is there is a piece on the board which everyone wants to take control of, and that is the child emperor of the Han. So right now, he is being held at Changan by the, let's bring on diplomacy. I don't know how much he likes me because I'm declared war.
Oh, there he is. He just went past him. So, yeah, Le Bu is one of the most powerful warriors in the entire Three Kingdoms period. And if anyone's played any games set in that, you can see he's at war with a lot of people.
With every single
Literally
person.
everyone on the map right now. So he is a bit of a treacherous person. He actually killed his own stepfather to be adopted by the tyrant Dong Zhuo. And then once Dong Zhuo's power started to wane, he killed him as well. So now we can see he's actually taken power. Lu Bu's in charge of his own faction, and he's taken Changan, which is where the Child Emperor sits. So at the moment, everyone in this coalition is rushing towards Changan to try and claim the Child Emperor for themselves, so that they can have the Han Empire, or what remains of it, under their control as a vassal. And you can see that Liu Bei has already sent one of his forces in to besiege Changan. We were literally marching our army over here for about a year just to get to there, and at the last second, Liu Bei swoops in and says, actually, I think I'll have that piece of candy from you. So we've got a few things to think about, Doug.
Yeah, we do indeed. So a lot of people right now, they kind of see that Liu Bu is quite weak. So they're sending out armies. So we've got, we literally have Liu Bei here marching up. I have the heir of my faction.
Your second stack there.
Who is coming by river. I'm going to put him out here. And then down here, we've got one of our... Oh, look, there's your personal favourite, Kong Rong.
Yeah, Kong
You've
Rong.
been
It's
playing
all
in
Kong
your
Rong.
Let's Plays.
So there's a lot of pieces on the board right now, but it's all moving into this central area of Changan where everyone wants to grab the Child Emperor. The reason it's so important is because if we just zoom right out onto the campaign map here, you can see that there's a lot of areas of China that we haven't discovered right now. But if you go onto the ownership tab at the top there, we can see that one of those is the Han Empire. Now, most of the north of the Han Empire has been conquered by would-be warlords, but to the south, in that fog of war, there is a rich tapestry of rice paddies, mines, weapon craftsmen, all kinds of regions which are under the Han Empire's control. And whoever holds the Child Emperor will get those under their vassalship, which means a huge increase in income per turn, loads of gold coming your way, and also just a really powerful ally as well.
And also, when you capture them, you move them to your capital as well, so you'll take them out of harm's way and deeper into your empire. So by grabbing him first, you take them far away from, hopefully, your enemies. We're not sieging the settlement of Changan. Unfortunately, Liu Bei's got there before us, a person and part of our coalition, one of our founding members, and an all-right stand-up chap. Mm-hmm. But I don't really want him to have a child emperor, so... we're going to declare war on them.
Yeah, so we can see the consequences of this action there. So everyone who hates Liu Bei is very happy with this. You know, Sun Jian, Le Bu, they're all like, yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, declare war on Liu Bei. The members of our coalition itself, minus 158 diplomatic relations there with Liu Bei, and minus 100 with Cao Cao as well. So we're probably going to lose the favor of that coalition, probably going to get kicked out as well.
So we're pretty much going to destroy our own coalition here, but the aim of doing this is to get the Child Emperor and kind of like legitimize our faction within the wider diplomatic landscape. So it's a risk reward. You are going to be in situations where you're going to have to backstab your allies, or, you know, maybe that was your plan all along. It wasn't my plan all along, but it's one of those things that sometimes you have to be very, you know, practical about what's ahead of you.
Yeah, and we've got a few more penalties for this as well. If you hit that declaration there, this is actually going to make us treacherous as well. So we're going to lose our upstanding title as a trustworthy lord here, because not only are we breaking our coalition deal pretty direct after signing it, we're also declaring war shortly after breaking that deal as well. So
yes,
we're going to look like an absolute horrible person in front of everyone who is currently a warlord in ancient China, but that's fine.
That is literally the time period. Everyone at this point was stabbing each other in the back, and you know, we decided that if they're going to try and take the Child Emperor, we're going to stab them in the back, and then we're going to take the Child Emperor and run away.
So we've got a few options here, but the first thing we should point out is you can see that we've got red borders all the way across all of our units in the bottom left here. We're suffering attrition. Because we've gone on this long campaign, we're running out of military supplies. And if you can't resupply your army, they will run out of food, they will perish. And we're seeing some of those losses start to take effect already. So we're kind of forced into this position.
Yep.
We can either, you know, pack up our bags and go home, or see our entire army fall as their food starts to diminish. So we're kind of taking the best situation that we can get here. We're seeing that we are slightly outnumbered. They've got 3.4 thousand troops to our 3.1. However, we have got some legendary heroes under us. So we're starting with Yuan Shao, our faction leader. And this is a game all about the characters. And the characters are central to everything that you do in Three Kingdoms. So these legendary characters didn't actually start in our faction. Zhao Yun here is from Gong Sazan's faction, so we kind of employed him once he saw his own leader starting to die. And we also saw Dian Wei joining us from Cao Cao's army as well. Maybe he wasn't too happy with his previous lot of life, so he went out searching for someone else to join.
So yeah, it's a very important thing. If you have a play style which kind of forces certain characters not to like you because of how you are, they will leave your faction. You can try and bribe them to keep you there, but they will leave. But also, there's another way to capture characters. Over here right now, as you can see in this battle, there's a base chance, depending on how you fight the battle or what you do to them, you can capture the character. Now, they've got free choices at that point. They can decide to either join your faction, you employ them and bring them on board, which is what I did with this chap. Sometimes they hate your guts and will not switch sides. And you can release them back into the faction, or you can kill them.
Yeah.
And take whatever items they have. I killed pretty much most people. So that's probably what happened here. And another thing we didn't touch on before is you got your ancillary items that you can put on your characters. So
this is one of the other reasons that you might want to execute some of these champions, is because you can actually steal their equipment. So equipment's going to play a big role in not just keeping your warlords happy by giving them nice trinkets to make it look like you care about them a little bit more, but also it's going to make them more effective in battle. So you can see that Yuan Shao here, we've equipped him with a composite bow, which is actually going to make him a little bit more of a melee ranged hybrid. So commanders are a more of a sit at the back and give orders kind of character. They're not going to get stuck in like our other two champions. So for him to be able to deal damage from afar is perfect. We've also got that nice gold ranked armor there, his unique outfit as well, and a couple of other bits as well, including a white stallion with which he can ride into battle on. And the most important one, of course, his main weapon. So if he does get into a bit of battle, the kind of weapon that he's bringing into the fray is going to be pretty important as well.
So we can change the battle from day to night. This can have benefits of like reinforcements not turning on. I don't like rain at the moment, so we're going to fight a night battle. There we go. So let's get into the battle.
It's also going to give a bit of a hit to their morale as well, which is nice because basically our plan here is to take them by surprise. They've set up this siege thinking that they've got everything under control, and then their best mate comes behind and smashes them in the back.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Yeah, reinforcements have arrived, but they're not here for you.
No, they're not there. We're here for the Emperor.
So this is the Battle of Changan, a small regional city. So we've got 2 rivers here that we're fighting in the middle of, and you saw some of those rivers on the campaign map here. We've just crossed over to come in. And here you can see this is a night battle, so we've got our nice lanterns hanging in the sky and a few of our troops here. And this, once again, if you've never played a Total War game, this is one of the more impressive aspects of it. This is the real-time battles that you get into every time you initiate combat with another character on the campaign map. So you can see that every single unit, we're playing in the extreme unit size here, so every single unit is up to 240 men. And they're all going to be moving in formation with their own size of weapon sets, which are going to make them more or less effective against other warriors. So, for example, we've got a lot of halberd infantry here, these G infantry. It's something that was really sort of characteristic of the time period. These guys are going to be really good at stopping cavalry attacks because they can brace their spears, allow the cavalry to charge in, and then those cavalry will charge and take their own damage onto themselves because they're literally marching into a spear wall. Behind them, we've got these Azure Dragons. These guys are a hybrid melee and ranged infantry unit. So you can see that they're attacked with those massive glaives, but they can actually set themselves up with glaives at the front and then set themselves up with their bows at the back so they can protect themselves from attacks from the front whilst they're raining down flaming arrows on their enemies as well. So they're going to be incredibly important to us. So we've got 3.1 thousand men on our side, about 3.4 I think on the other side. So we're looking at about 6.5 thousand models all attacking at the same time on this large battle map. As well as that, our heroes are going to be incredibly important. So as I said, Yuan Shao is a commander, but we've also got Zhao Yun here, who is a sentinel. He's a bit of a tank. He can take a lot of damage, hold really important choke points, lock down other characters as well. Jian Wei there on the right, the absolute unit, is he's going to be really useful as a champion. See, he's very, very good at engaging in duels with other characters, dealing a lot of damage and able to take them out in single combat, which we're definitely going to be using him for. You can see that he is a big boy, so we're definitely going to get him into combat as soon as we can. So what's the strategy here?
Well, the one thing I'm really happy about with Yan Chao is because I was able to give him a bow as an ancillary, I can have him sit at the back here and do some range damage. These guys are going to lead the kind of charge at the front. I'm obviously going to put one on either flank because I've already got a commander in the center there. And over here, I'm going to try and seek out, where is he? There he is. Their champion is over on their left, or their right, sorry. So I'm going to try and duel him in combat. If I win a duel against an enemy, it gives you a load of buffs. Loads of melee attack damage and all that, and it spreads out to your retinue as well. So if this guy here wins his duel, all these units here will also get a buff as well. And the opposing generals, opposing characters' retinue will have a massive debuff for about 180, it's like 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, something that we should definitely explain with Total War battles is not all just about dealing damage to enemy units. Morale plays a huge part in taking people off the field. Because it's not just a case of, am I losing this fight? It's what's happening around me as well. Am I being flanked by cavalry right now? Has my commander just died? Because you might find yourself with warriors who just don't want to fight anymore because they can see the battle crumbling around them. So that's going to be one of the most important things as well. Something that's going to play into that is the flaming arrows that we've got equipped with those Azure Dragons.
And so set fire to those trees, man.
Yeah, you can see that the enemy have set them up on that hill, giving them a bit of a reach advantage over us. But it also means that they're in that forest. While that's going to protect them from a bit of the range fire because it's literally blocking the arrows, if we can set alight those trees, it's not only going to hit them with a huge morale penalty because who doesn't want to be stood in a field of burning trees, but also the smoke from those trees is going to suffocate them, bring down their stamina levels, which is going to make them less effective in combat as well. So you can see we're marching forward now. We've got those huge lanterns above us giving us a little bit of sight, and Yuan Shao is proudly going forth to lead from the front. I'm not sure that you wanted to do that, but he's looking pretty good whilst he does it.
He loves to just get in the front. He's, he's all about stealing the spotlight. So I would love to start this battle off with a duel. but I have to be kind of careful. I need to get to certain range. Certain characters can't duel as well, so that's something that does play a part in the campaign.
Yeah, so we can see that we've got 2 strategist characters on the other side of the field. So they're really good at bringing ranged units into battle. They're going to increase the amount of ammunition that they can fire, which is going to make them incredibly more effective. But not only that, they've got loads of buffs and debuffs that they can initiate on enemy characters and the heroes that they're coming into battle with as well. So we're going into a single combat now. This is the duel mechanic. We can see that, bam! Off the horse, we've managed to completely dismount our enemy character, and we're going to lock ourselves into 101 man-on-man combat. No one can interrupt this duel, otherwise the army that did try and interrupt is going to take a huge penalty to their morale, because it's seen as an incredibly disrespectful thing. These are 2 champions engaged in combat. You can see that already the enemy champion has a bit of an advantage over us, way more health, because we have been taking that attrition. So we need to use our abilities there to try and give us a little bit of an advantage. Here we go, we're going to start sending in our archer units here, a little bit of flaming arrow support, try and set fire to those trees. You can see them just coming in now. Hopefully we can get some kind of damage on them as well, because the more time that those archers have to fire on us, the more damage we're going to be taking over time.
Oh, yes.
So you've got your front line charging here.
That's the plan, trying to get in there. Meanwhile, that duel is just continuing. I can kind of rely on my men to hold the front line while that duel kicks off. Yan Chao is going to sit back here and just continue to pepper the enemy troops. And while this goes on, you see the flaming arrows popping down there.
Huge charge there as the spears clash with their front line. Hopefully we caught a few of their archer units as well. They pushed them out of the front to give them more range, and they essentially wanted to retreat them behind the front line as soon as we came in. But if we were quick enough, we might have been able to deal a bit of damage to them as well. But you can see the huge amount of carnage that you can unleash on a battlefield. Some of those trees now starting to catch fire, which is going to deal huge amounts of morale damage to them as well. And you can see that our champion is on his last legs trying to fight up against this other hero. This is a real slobber knocker in the middle of the field there.
Yeah, it desperately needs to go my way as well, because when you lose these, your retinues really take a lot of damage. And also at the moment, we take a lot of attrition damage on the campaign, so we desperately need to make sure we win these duels.
Yeah, if we lose this fight, considering the fact that we've just put ourselves at war with our own coalition, oh, there it is, that's huge. If we lose this battle, considering we've just gone to war with our own coalition, we're in a really, really bad spot on the campaign, because we wanted that Child Emperor so badly. Now, we can get out of that if we've got plenty of forces to go against them, but if we have to end up reinforcing ourselves, waiting for our forces to muster so that we can actually get all of our men on the battlefield itself, we might just find ourselves completely overrun by enemy support as well. So Jian Wei has come out completely victorious from that battle, but he is now incredibly low on health, so we need to protect him. These champions are very, very important, as we said. If we lose them on the battlefield, we can see huge amounts of debuffs to our troops. You can see that one of their strategists starting to rout now. We've got Zhao Yun has just been slipping around the back, and he's got a rear charge here to smash into the back. This is the romance mode that we're playing in right now. We've separated into 2 separate modes of play styles. You can either have romance or records. And although our game is historically authentic as we try to make it, the romance mode is actually borrowing from the, I think it's like the 1st century novel, which this whole sort of period was sort of idealized with. So the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is where all of these characters gained their sort of name in Chinese history. And even to the point where one of the characters, Guan Yu, has now become the god of war in the Chinese mythology pantheon. So there you go. These characters are larger than life. They're incredibly important. And they're also going to be the main players across the battlefield and across the campaign as well. Zhao Yun getting into battle there. This guy's an absolute legend, by the way. He ended up joining Liu Bei's forces in the story, and just as the settlement that they were looking after was being besieged, they were forced to retreat everyone out of the settlement. And Zhao Yun was like, wait, Liu Bei's family is in there. So he marches into the settlement on his own, finds the family, attaches Liu Bei's son as a child to his chest with a bit of cloth, and fights his way out of the settlement, baby attached. Pretty cool guy. That's
Not
also
phased.
the point. Yeah, it's also the point where Liu Bei then throws the baby on the floor and says, "I can have another baby. I can't have another you." So you can see that they really held them in high regard. So we've managed to single out one of their heroes there with 2 of our own. We've also got the Cav coming in for a huge rear charge on these retreating forces. That's going to really hurt them. We can see that a lot of the carnage is now starting to turn into our favor. Some of those front lines are starting to waver, and you can see as the forces retreat, it's going to be victorious for us. Big round of applause for Dogbert. Congratulations. What a huge victory for you, mate.
Yeah, it was very difficult.
That's the first time you ever won a battle, isn't it?
It's literally the first time I've ever played Total. How do you know?
All right. So we're going to have a little look at some of the effects that that's had on the campaign map in a little bit. But we're also going to be opening the floor up to any questions as well in a few seconds. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask us, get them in your brain now so that we can get to them as quick as possible. But should we have a look at the campaign map, see what's unfolded?
I can capture the Emperor, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
That's the key word I want. So you can see the kills down here. Pretty well spread out. The characters here, so a commander isn't really going to deliver that much, but when you've got your vanguards and your sentinels and champions, they're usually going to rake in quite a lot of kills. Obviously, a champion, you're literally seeking out a one-on-one duel usually to take out their guy and bring glory that way.
One of your Azure Dragons there, that hybrid ranged and melee unit, got 300-odd kills, so they've been incredibly important as well. And you can see that we've actually captured one of the enemy characters here. You can see that the friends and rivalry system set up there, so characters will develop relationships with each other, and the way that you treat them on the campaign map can affect this as well. So if we do release this character here, Zhang Yuripei, then we're actually going to be looked upon more favorably, not just by her, but by the faction she belongs to as well. She's going to help our diplomatic relations, but also, if their faction ends up getting crushed in the future, she's going to be, searching through China for a new masters to serve, and she might just come to the person who saved her life when she was on the losing side of a battle. So I can see you hovering over the execute option there already.
No,
we do have an ancillary that we would grab.
Yeah,
if we got
it'd
that.
be really good. Maybe we should employ her. I've got enough characters already. I don't need any more. I've got enough friends.
It's fine.
And supplies are important right now. We're in enemy territory, so getting supplies means that we can feed our troops, and we're not ending up. As you can see, our army right now is 0 military supplies.
Yeah, so we can start to sort of quell some of those bits of attrition that we've been taking. Now, because they've been besieging the settlement, a lot of the forces inside are probably pretty tattered. So I think we can actually just walk in here and take it for ourselves. Yep, there it is. One single unit of 28 people left. As they were starving out the enemy, they weren't expecting someone to come in and just do the job for them. So we're going to gain the what is, at the time period, the capital of all China, Changan, and we're going to seize the Child Emperor for ourselves. Yuan Shao's got this special option for himself as well. He can spend his unique currency, which is his lineage, to make the garrison there a bit more effective as he comes in.
Not yet.
So we actually got a little cinematic there where we ranked up, but we're not going to spoil anything for you. So the puppet Han Emperor has been captured. We've taken them out of Le Bu's hands, and that means that we now have the Han Empire as our vassal. And you can see that we've moved him over to Yi, which is our capital here, in the Duchy of Song, which we have now just become. We have become a duke, and all of China is now at our disposal, I think. We have a lot of campaigning to do in the future to try and become the emperor and start a new dynasty under Yuan Shao's name. So there we go. This is Total War Three Kingdoms. I hope you've enjoyed this little look-see, and we're going to be opening the floor now to questions. I believe we're just going to put a little microphone at the front here, so please come and queue up if you have anything that you want to ask us. Don't be shy. We're very, very friendly. He's not. He just executed someone. But if you've got any questions for us, then please do let us know.
Come on, Life.
We're going to bring up Life as well, who is one of the developers on Three Kingdoms. How you doing, Life?
Hey, everyone.
Oh. Do you want to quickly introduce
quite
yourself?
impressive, guys. Nice display of backstabbery here.
Yeah, do you want to introduce yourself to the crowd?
Yeah, my name is Leif Walter, senior designer on Three Kingdoms.
All right. Do we have any questions? Don't be shy. Come ask us some questions.
I got one to kick you off.
All right.
Why China?
Why China?
Why China? Yeah, it's a bit, you mentioned it a bit in your introduction. Like, when we looked at the Three Kingdoms period, it was pretty clear it was basically perfect material for a total war game. You have a massive empire, the Han Empire, which is basically the equivalent of the Roman Empire in ancient China, falling apart through corruption and famine. And then you have all these charismatic warlords rising up in this turmoil, seeking their own fortune and trying to forge out their own realms in the end. So that's a very cool setting for a total war game. But not only that, it's also with the Three Kingdoms novel and sort of this personal, dramatic view on the events, it was pretty clear that all the personal relationships between characters are super important. And that's always great for a total war game as well, if you have, a characters that make you connect with them and personal stories of revenge and drama. So it was perfect setting in that sense.
Yeah, I think as China's coming into the public eye a lot more now, as it's such a big player globally as well. It's interesting to look back into the history of what happened to put this empire in its position, and with so many like incredible periods of history in the sort of Chinese tapestry of what happened before. The Three Kingdoms definitely stood out as one of the most sort of perfect settings to put a Total War game in as well.
That's where Total War games are, that's also my personal experience, but I think they can be a really cool vehicle for people to get more interested in time periods. I played many years ago the first Rome Total War, and that was really like, oh cool, this is awesome, I want to learn more. And equally with Three Kingdoms can be something where people maybe not too familiar with the time period and all the characters, but then they sort of have this nice appetizer, they immerse themselves into the world, tell their own story, and then read up on, okay, what was it about the Han Empire now? Like, who is Emperor Changan? Like these kind of tidbits of history that you can learn. Yeah.
You mentioned the difference between there's a romance mode, right, and a more historically accurate mode. Can you go into a bit more about how those contrast with each other?
Yeah. So very early when we looked at the time period and the resource material that you have, it was very clear that we have these two big sources. We have the records of the Three Kingdoms, which is the historical account of the events, very factual, army numbers, this army with 200,000 men marching there, a bit dry but historical facts. And then on the other hand, the romance of the Three Kingdoms novel in the 14th century was basically a romanticized view on these historical events, where it was basically adding the personal narrative fabric into the whole picture, where people would want to take a revenge on others, or Lu Bu being this infamous warrior who slays his own fathers. Like these sort of memorable personal moments are coming from this source. So it was like really helped to form these two perspectives on the same historical context. And that, in the end, informed these two modes, where in battle you have the more strategic maneuvering of armies and army maneuvers, and then in romance mode, I've just seen with James, almost like the heroes being an additional layer on top, where you have to think about, okay, where do I position my heroes? Where are the enemy's heroes? Can I take them out in a duel? Do I buff my own troops? Do I debuff the enemy's troops? Lots of spatial gameplay as well around that. So it was a nice opportunity to bring these two perspectives.
And certainly for people returning to the franchise as well, who've played a lot of Total War games, the records mode is a lot more sort of traditional in the way that it plays out with the other historical titles like Rome and Attila before it. So it's like a nice sort of, we always like to give people choice on how they play their game. So it's nice if you're a bit more in favor of that previous format that we used to play around with, then you can just grab that straight from the get-go.
And are there any other ways in which the setting has influenced the design of Total War that's changed it, sort of pushed it in new directions?
In the end, the setting always informs some design decisions. It's a Total War game. We are making Total War games. That means, great, large-scale battles on a grand strategic, campaign map. But it's always very important to understand what the setting is about. And that it then informs some of the gameplay systems that make it into the game. Like I said, the personal relationships between these heroes are very important, not just in romance, but also historically. So it was clear we need a system that portrays these relationships so that your characters can form their own rivalries, and it's not exactly playing out like in history. Depending on your actions, you will see different relationships forming, you will see different friendships and rivalries. Or population, like the whole famine and migration was very important at the time, so it was clear, okay, we want to make bring population back as a mechanic. So it was definitely clear that the setting informed a lot of design decisions.
Is it going to be like a family tree type thing, like in previous games, and is it going to be different?
Show it right now,
significantly
actually. Yeah.
different in this one.
Yeah, so especially with the relations, that's definitely going to inform the family tree as well. So, for example, Yuan Shao has 3 sons here who want to be claimed as the heir. So if we actually, if you just click on the middle character there, Yuan Shi, and just hover over his satisfaction. So you can see that, so although the relations between the characters can give positive effects as well, so this guy's very happy with everyone around him. If we were to then make Yuan Shi our heir, for example, it would actually make the other 2 sons really, really unhappy with us. They'd be, get into a bit of an angsty teenage disagreement with their dad about the line of succession, for example. And that happens with your court nobles as well. So if we switch on over to the court screen, we can see that the relationships with your faction leader are also affected by how high you see the position that you're put into right now. So our Chancellor, our Grand Commandant, and our Grand Excellency here are going to be happy until they reach sort of rank 8 as a character. They're happy with their court position. But this guy here, Liu Fan, who is just sitting in our core at rank 4, he expects his position to be a lot higher than it is. So we can see we're taking minus 36 there for his desire for a better position. They want to be given.
Want to find
exactly
their place in the world, basically. And prove themselves.
They want their efforts on the campaign map to be reflected in the status that they hold in your court.
Yeah, what you can also see here is that James actually made sure that his court is a very sort of coherent and peaceful environment where everyone likes each other. You can see that the green tick boxes where it basically shows that there are no troublesome relationships here. Basically, within the team, everyone is very happy with each other. But we can have situations where you appoint, for example, a minister, and then because he really doesn't like one of the other ministers, then they start to grind each other's gears, basically, and they become more and more unhappy, and then one of them might defect, for example, or cause other problems in your faction.
Yeah, so you can see that we've become rivals here with Liu Bei after our backstabbing efforts to take Changan out of his grasp. And those relationships, as we said, are going to affect what happens on the campaign map. Every single character that's looking for somewhere to go is going to be swayed based on his opinions of who he's going to be serving, stuff like that.
That's a good example of how relationships are. They are a system that informs your own narrative inside your head, but it has a lot of tendrils into gameplay systems, like diplomacy, for example. If you, let's say you have a character in your faction and you're really good friends, you really like each other, and then he becomes a faction leader eventually, maybe because you make him independent as an administrator, then he will surely be quite loyal, and the diplomatic relationship between the factions will benefit from this positive relationship. Whereas in other cases, if you have a personal rivalry with another leader, that's bound to cause problems in diplomacy. But to quickly go back to the family tree as well.
Sorry, I'm just getting in the way of your lovely presentation.
I mean, if you read books about the time, it was super clear that family and being related to someone is really important. And that's why it was really important for us to also show you what other people in your family are doing. Like here, in this case, obviously Yuan Shu, he's another faction leader at the beginning of the game. He's your brother, and that's actually causing a bit of problems. But we can see now that because his faction was destroyed, apparently in your campaign, he's now working for the Han Empire directly. So you can basically follow the fate of other family members, what they're doing, what they're up to. And that really helps to sort of form this full, complete narrative and picture of the campaign.
Okay. All right. That's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for coming, and please give a big hand to the guys from Creative Assembly.
Cool.